Here at Koko Meme Accra. Hello, good evening and welcome to Joy News Prime. We are live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV 125 and around the world on myjoyonline.com. Coming up this evening, mother of 8-year-old who died in Dansoman market fire breaks down in tears after leaving her daughter locked to buy dinner. And minority in parliament tears into Ghana's judiciary with its leader accusing the bench of shameful conduct after a judge annulled the parliamentary election in Kpandai. We have details as the NPP group say they will not relent on its criticism of the judiciary. And former MIIF board member takes on current management of Mineral Income Investment Fund over its refusal to provide full disclosure on a raft of documents, including financial statement on its operation in 2024. We'll bring details on how MIIF lost over 700 million cedis in a gold trade with Gold Rate Refinery Limited. Also, the impact of illegal mining has opened the door to ruthless exploitation in the central region, where a gallon of borehole water now goes as high as 5 Ghana cedis. More in our continuing series, Dear Mahama, #StopGalamsey. Remember, we are your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Stay with us. Let's begin from the Accra, the central of Accra, where a deadly fire ripped through the Dansoman market, flattening more than 80 shops and plunging the community into a state of mourning. Sadly, the blaze also claimed the life of an 8-year-old girl. Collins Frimpong report from Dansoman.
The dawn fire ravaged the Dansoman markets, destroying dozens of stores and claiming the life of an 8-year-old child. The victim, Priscilla, is reported to have been left in her mother's shop when the fire started.
The child actually, as I asked him, mom said he locked him for the shop inside. She went out to go and buy something. So before she came, there's a fire on here, so you can't enter the fire and go and save the kid. So it was 8 years girl, it's a little girl. So this is a place where the bench was actually here now. The place where I went in the back. That's a place.
At daybreak, community leaders and firefighters were at the scene to assess the damage. Member of Parliament for Ablikuma West and other government officials met with the grieving family.
Then also be did okuna so Priscilla this kind of got okuna be don say mami me did okuni mokuna so that ton kwan wa happen na me de me nya gari na me fending kwan no see you na me ben ko to le dokuni bae no ton kwan ba so no body ni dia no on dey ni dia na me so na Priscilla and they enter me over na so committee me dem we da when you ko che go school and na me ko pay duani bi on po wadan po man kran Adiasa, not lucky. And I'm here, then I'm quote and copy and have it. The one madam for me, I say, I just don't market you when I say, Radim, me banner,
traders who lost their stores say the destruction has wiped out their only means of livelihoods.
Mada, and how much 12? Maybe your pama dear, and I'm a tone to my. My dad and my brother or by show so by night. One of me who call me young machine to me pick a corner say, Sister,
brother came here at night to work only to call and inform me of the fire. Since we arrived this morning, we haven't been able to recover anything. President Mahama should come to our aid.
Meanwhile, the Greater Accra Regional Fire Commander, ACFO2, Rashid Kwame Nasewu, is warning the public to stop using markets as homes.
And the advice is very simple. This is a market dedicated for buying and selling. This is not a place for people to use as their homes. So nobody expected that there will be somebody there sleeping. It was after firefighting, then through salvaging, we discovered the body there, and that drew attention that somebody might be sleeping here. And from there, she bolted and nobody saw her until the time that I'm talking to you.
Reporting for Joy News, Collins Frimpong.
Well, in a related development, the National Disaster Management Organization in the Ashanti region has raised the alarm after inspections across more than 30 markets reveal shops operating without fire alarms, smoke detectors, or functional extinguishers. Officials warn these lapses put thousands of traders and customers at risk. There's more in the following report.
Fire safety is a matter of life and death, yet routine inspections by the National Disaster Management Organization NADMO in the Ashanti region have uncovered shocking lapses in markets within the Greater Kumasi. Officials warn that thousands of traders and customers could be at serious risk. Between October and November this year, NADMO team visited over 30 markets, old and newly constructed, and found shops with no fire alarms, no smoke detectors, and no working extinguishers. Alhaji Abdel Nasir Mohammed is the Ashanti Regional Director of NADMO.
Some of the big shops, I cannot mention them for obvious reasons, did not have very basic things like smoke detectors, like fire alarms. They have not trained their staff on what to do in case of fire or any kind of disaster. They have no assembly points. They have inadequate extinguishers and all of that. In fact, we did some banks and a few others. In all, the picture was not rosy.
Traders were also found cooking inside the markets using gas cylinders, coal pots, and other equipment that significantly increase the risk of fire. While some traders say they cook due to health conditions, NADMO insists the practice is too dangerous to continue. Over 50 gas cylinders and prohibited devices were seized during the operations.
For a doom blue light, the data, as we have it, indicates about 80 gas cylinders were found when the fire finally died off. But evidently, it makes the situation worse. So what do? We just enforce existing laws, the bylaws of the assemblies. You can't cook in the market, simple as that.
Well, let's go back to our earlier story on the fire disaster in Dansoman and engage the PRO of the Ghana National Fire Service, DO2 Desmond Aka. We are grateful for your time, sir. President Mahama issued a directive to the Ghana National Fire Service some time back to patrol our markets. I want to find out how is that going so far?
Well, let me say a very good evening to you and your cherished viewers. I want to be able to help us to be able to understand this. Anytime the difference between a disaster and then an emergency. An emergency moves into a disaster phase when the lead agency, for instance, for a particular fire, the lead agency is not able to marshal the needed resources to be able to deal with that particular incident. But most of the fires that we have recorded in this country has never moved to the disaster phase. And therefore, we would want to ensure and assure the good people of this country that we are very much on top of our game. We find it a bit strange that our neighbors are trying to do what is within our ambit to be doing. But notwithstanding, we are all working towards ensuring that the people of Ghana are safe. Talking about what the president said earlier, that we should be able to intensify our surveillance, our patrols, and to ensure that our markets are not gutted by these fires. you would also bear with us that most of these fires that we are experiencing in our commercial centers has to do with our makeshift markets. Our modernized markets hardly are faced with these fires, and even if they are gutted by fire, the effect or the impact is very minimized, and therefore we are, because of our intensified patrols and our engagement with the market folks, we are able to prevent large-scale destruction. And for instance, what happened this morning at Dansoman market did not get into a disaster phase. We were able to marshal the needed resources, even within the circumstances that we find ourselves. And therefore, even with the help of the assembly, 2 water tankers were brought in, making 10 engines to be able to deal with the fire situation. So we have not reneged, we have not backed out, we have also not checked our responsibility of ensuring that we engage with the market traders, the security men, and even the traders to kind of protect these investments from the ravages of fire.
Okay. Thank you so much for speaking to us here on Join This Point. Well, away from that, the NDC majority in Parliament blocked and battled NPP MP for Kpandai, Matthew Nyindam, from speaking in the House, insisting he is no longer a member of Parliament after a Tamale High Court annulled the parliamentary election in the Kpandai constituency. The two sides disagreed on the status of the MP in the wake of the ruling, with the minority leader, Alexander Afenyo Markin, tearing into Ghana's judiciary, accusing it of serving political interests. It will be recalled that on Monday, the court upheld the election petition filed by the NDC candidate and ordered a rerun in 30 days. Addressing journalists in Parliament, the minority leader described the conduct of the court as shameful and serving the interests of certain paymasters. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kwekwa Santi reports.
On Monday, a Tamale High Court annulled the parliamentary election in Kpandai constituency. It sent seismic waves in this chamber. Today, the minority took a very tough stance, accusing the judiciary of working to further the interest of certain paymasters. Listen to the minority leader, Alexander Afenyo Markin, addressing journalists on this matter.
The judiciary must know that their actions and inactions to serve the interests of whoever their paymaster is has the tendency of destroying our peaceful republic. We will not mince words. They can conspire to call us one by one for a so-called contempt of courts. We are criticizing their shameful conduct. We are not afraid. We are ready to be in Nsawam for their so-called contempt.
According to Alexander Afenyo Markin, the NDC went to court on Monday knowing the judgment of the court even before it was read in open court.
The sad part of it is that the NDC candidate and his supporters were aware of the judgment before the day, to the extent that on the day of the said judgment, the regional minister led a team of NDC party faithfuls into the courtroom, anticipating the expected results.
The minority said they are going to challenge the decision to its logical conclusion.
Let me first speak directly to the people of Kpandai. To the people of Kpandai, your member of parliament, Honorable Matthew Nyindam, remains the sitting member of parliament for the Kpandai constituency. He remains a full member of parliament. He remains a proud and active member of the minority caucus and the New Patriotic Party.
Matthew Nyindam indeed appeared in the chamber of the House and was seated, and there was no issue until he rose to debate the 2026 budget. And that is when the minority said they were not going to allow that. According to Russell Nelson, the majority chief whip, as far as they are concerned, Matthew Nyindam is no longer a member of parliament.
High Court Tamale has ordered that the outcome of the election, please, these are very serious matters, that the outcome of the 7th of December election 2024, which brought the Honorable Nyindam to this house as the Honorable Member for Kpandai, was flawed, and therefore that election has been ordered to be rerun. Mr. Speaker, ipso facto, the Honorable Nyindam is no longer a member of this house. We have received the court orders and received proof of service. The orders of the court has been duly served on Parliament. It was served yesterday. The Honorable Nyindam can no longer participate in our proceedings. If he's minded to appeal the decision of the High Court, it is right, and he has done so. But it is right that mere filing of an appeal does not operate as a stay.
Minority Leader shot back.
We cannot say that he should be walked out, or the majority cannot say that they will not allow him to be in this chamber. There is no such precedence. When the Jachi question matter occurred, there was no directive from the chair, neither was there a metro power from the majority to walk him out of this chamber. It did not happen. Jachi question remained a member of Parliament. He continued to receive his salary. Mr. Speaker, Jachi question's salary was not stopped. His car was not taken from him. His benefits were not taken from him.
The second Deputy Speaker who was presiding said he had been given an indication from the Speaker of Parliament himself that he will make a determination on that matter.
The Speaker of Parliament has indicated to me that I should freeze this particular matter relating to Honorable Martin Nyindam, and therefore I'm not going to make any comment on it. I pray that we hold on with the discussion or the commentary on the budget.
In the coming days, Aban Bagwen will have to determine whether or not Matthew Nyindam will continue to occupy his seat as a Member of Parliament. Matthew Nyindam, as we know, has now filed a notice of appeal and has applied to stay the decision of the High Court. But until then, as the majority insists, merely filing of an injunction application or an application to stay the judgment of a court does not stay that judgment. They will continue to insist that Matthew Nyindam is no longer a Member of Parliament. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Well, let's take you to the northern region and speak to regional correspondent Martina Bugri. Martina, we understand some NPP youth have been protesting the ruling of the High Court. Tell us more.
This afternoon, some youth of the NPP in Kpandai addressed the media, and then they took a peaceful walk from the party office to the Yam Market to register their displeasure. Addressing the press, they had said that the ruling was regrettable. It was troubling and regrettable, and described it as a miscarriage of justice. They tried to explain that if any violence should occur within the runoff, within the rerun, the NDC candidate should be held responsible. And so it was a peaceful march to tell their story and to let the people of the world know that they agree with they would take the ruling, but they do not agree with what they are saying. And so they have made an appeal, and then to tell their people that they should be calm whilst they wait for the appeal. We can take a view of what he said.
Materials. This raises concerns or questions about his credibility and commitment to democratic principles, and his willingness to prioritize his personal interests over the well-being of honorary person in Kpandai. Ladies and gentlemen, we urge all stakeholders to join us in condemning Honorable Saleh's actions. The people of Kpandai deserve to have fair voices heard and their votes should be respected. We will not stand aloof for one individual selfish ambition to jeopardize the peace and stability of Kpandai constituency.
Much enough for those updates from the Kpandai constituency. And away from that, cost of borrowing awaits a significant slowdown as the Bank of Ghana announces a sweeping 350 basis point cut to its benchmark policy rate, slashing it to 18%. Data tracked by Joy News Research shows this is the lowest level recorded since Ghana's debt default in December 2022. This comes at a time when inflation has slowed to single digits, yet both the policy rate and average lending rate have remained above 20%. The Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Johnson Esiama, says the latest cut reflects confidence in the economy's direction. Let's go onto the phone now and speak to Professor of Finance and Economics at the University of Ghana Business School, Godfred Bokpin. Grateful for your time. 18% policy rates. Would you say it's long overdue?
Well, good evening, and good evening to our serious listeners. Well, I think that it signals that the economy broadly has recovered to a large extent, and I think that the rate cut was largely expected. Beyond the reasons the central bank has given, the MPC has given, clearly you see that inflation has decelerated significantly. I mean, even if you look at core inflation, that is below 8%. So, and then again, if you look at where the monetary policy rate had been pegged before this rate cut at 21.5%, clearly the difference between core inflation or even headline inflation and then the policy rate is unjustifiable, right? It's difficult to justify that spread, that real return. And therefore, even beyond the fundamentals of the economy, which we all agree in terms of the reasons the central bank had given, there was a need to narrow that real return or that spread, because what that means actually, or what that meant, was that we were not passing on the gains from the economic recovery and macroeconomic stability to consumers of credit. Okay, because if inflation had come down to, let's say, 8%, it's a bit abnormal to see the policy rate hanging up there at 21.5%. And because of that, the Ghana reference rate also failed to track down significantly. So we had the Ghana reference rate hovering around 17.9%, driven largely or held up largely by the policy rate and then the interbank rate. The interbank rate tends to mirror the policy rate rather than the treasury bill. So you will see that from the fiscal consolidation effort, the treasury bill and reducing the gross financing needs of the country as a result of the shock therapy government administered in the 2025 budget, we had a treasury bill with a money market rate drop significantly. Of course, that resulted in savings of over 8 billion Ghana cedis in the first 3 quarters of this year. So the idea was that we had some kind of misalignment in the market broadly when it comes to the rate, and therefore the pressure was on the central bank to reduce its policy rate, which will also drag down the interbank rate and it will drag down the Ghana reference rate, which that would mean that we'll be able to pass on these gains to consumers of credit, as other consumers of goods and services have enjoyed in the last couple of months. But then again, look at it this way. There was another imperative for the central bank to cut the rate, which was, if you look at the monetary tightening together with the fiscal consolidation, the side effect of that was going to be good. So if you look at the balance of the risk probably will be more towards growth rather than inflation. So the threat to inflation, core inflation, probably remain subdued relative to growth. And so there's a need for the central bank to cut the rate so that from the monetary point of view, they will also complement the government's 2026 budget, which is looking more towards growth, job-rich growth, and all of that. So from that perspective, we will say that, yes, remember, we have been there before. in December 2019, when inflation decelerated to 7.9%, the policy rate from Bank of Ghana was around 16%, right? So if inflation has come down to about 8% and the policy rate is still, let's say, 21.5%, then that misalignment has to be corrected. And that is what is done.
Right.
We also expect going forward that there's still room for a further cut in the policy rate. But of course, that couldn't have been done within this pricing window. Hopefully, the next pricing window in January, we expect that the rate will come down further. But of course, bear also in mind that in any serious country, you will not find that at a go, a central bank will cut rates by 350 basis points. That's 3.5%, right? That is huge. But because of what the economy has gone through over the years, this seems to be a moderate cut, right? Even though in normal sense of things, it looks like a big cut at a go.
Okay, yeah. So in terms of lending from the commercial banks, how is this going to, benefit the ordinary person or person who goes to the bank to borrow, for instance?
Yeah, so in the next pricing window, we expect that Ghana Bankers Association, together with the central bank, they will adjust the policy rate, the Ghana reference rate, to mirror this rate cut. So we expect that the Ghana reference rate will come down because there's a agreed formula which allows the pass-through of gains from the economy, from the monetary side and also from the fiscal side in terms of treasury bill. So you will see that treasury bill coming down has done largely 8 parts in bringing the Ghana reference rate down to about 17.9%, even though the policy rate has also done a bit. But there's more that the policy rate could do when it comes down together with the interbank rate. So we expect that the Ghana reference rate will come down, and that would also lower the average lending rate. But remember that in improving credit to the private sector, both in terms of quantity or volume and then also in real terms, it goes beyond just the rate cut. There are other monetary policy tools at the disposal of the central bank or the MPC that must equally be looked at if we want to cut growth and advance credit to private sector. For instance, we expect that, and not much was said about decelerating sterilization in the market, right? Because Bank of Ghana has been mopping up excess liquidity. In fact, the work that is done essentially this year is more like mopping up liquidity from the market. This is what is due for the salary they earn. So, but if you are mopping up liquidity, then we also need to reverse that to some extent so that we can make liquidity available to them. There are also other monetary tightening measures that have been implemented in the last 2.5 years, which also included adjusting the reserve required ratio, which also limits how much liquidity will be available to banks for them to lend. So if you look at the monetary open market operations that Bank of Ghana has conducted and the aggressive strengthening, aggressive sterilization that they've done in order to prop up the value of the cedis and to some extent, they've mopped up more than 65 billion cedis from the market in terms of liquidity. So even though the rate has come down, the volume of credit within the system available to be lent to private sector has gone down to some extent. So if you look at Bank of Ghana's own data, growth in reserve money is as low as 1.2% or so, and all of that. So we need to look at it broadly. It's an important step, and of course, going forward, we'll begin to also ease all the other monetary tightening tools at their disposal, so that credit, not only that it will come cheaply, but it will also be available, and then we can increase the longevity of the lending in the market to align it with the productive sector of the economy.
We are so much grateful to you, Professor Bokpin, for those detailed analysis. You're still watching Joy News Prime with me, Carlos Kaloni. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll tell you more. Please stay. Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us. Now, to some other story, Joy News has intercepted a confidential audit by the Ghana Audit Service revealing how the failure of the Minerals Income Investment Fund's management to monitor its gold trade deal with Goldridge Refinery Limited, GRL, caused the state and the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors to lose over 700 million cedis. Now, the Office of the Special Prosecutor last month detained the Chief Executive Officer of Goldridge, Dr. Sledge Nanayao Dodu, after he failed to meet bail conditions. He is under investigation for suspected corruption and corruption-related offences linked to the MIIF, particularly in the management of its gold trade program. Now, Joy News' Kwete Nate has been following the investigations and has more in the following report.
According to an audit of the Minerals Income Investment Fund's annual report and financial statements for 2024 by the Ghana Audit Service, the state and the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors incurred gold trade losses amounting to 708,696,569 Ghana cedis. These losses were settled by MIIF on behalf of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors and Fidelity Bank. The confidential audit report in the possession of Joy News revealed that MIIF entered into a 5-year gold trade agreement worth $30 million with Goldridge Refinery Limited, GRL. Under the deal, MIIF was expected to earn 15% annual interest. The report further noted that MIIF entered into a parallel agreement with the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, CBOD. Under this agreement, MIIF was to advance cedis to Goldridge to purchase gold, while Goldridge was to provide the chamber with US dollars to buy petroleum products for the Ghanaian market. However, after receiving the cedis, Goldridge failed to deliver the promised dollars. Goldridge attributed the shortfall to foreign exchange losses, but the audit found that the problem resulted from MIIF management's failure to monitor and enforce the contract. The report stated, and I quote, the management's failure to enforce Clause 8 of its agreement with Goldridge, which required the parties to jointly appoint an independent auditor within 14 days of the agreement's execution date to audit the transaction quarterly, and their inability to meticulously monitor, review, and analyze the trade process caused the irregularity. The silence of the Investment Advisory Committee regarding this significant investment decision further contributed to this anomaly, unquote. The former MIIF CEO, Edward Cranton, explained that the Bank of Ghana's insistence on using Bloomberg mid-rates for gold trading caused the foreign exchange losses. To plug the financial gap, Mr. Kwartin secured Finance Ministry approval for $40 million, out of which $26.4 million went to the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors to cover part of its losses. The audit further noted that the circumstances surrounding Goldridge's losses to Fidelity Bank and the Chamber suggest that MIIF risks losing its $30 million investment and an accrued interest of $2.4 million. When Joy News contacted Fidelity Bank, the institution confirmed that it had advanced funds to MIIF in cedis, with the understanding that MIIF would settle the equivalent in foreign exchange within a stipulated period. The bank stated that although MIIF initially failed to meet the deadline, the outstanding amounts were fully settled by December last year. It recommended that MIIF conducted a stress test on the gold trade agreement with Goldridge to determine the current position of the fund's trade capital and accrued interest of $32,489,315.07, or discontinue the program entirely and recover its funds. However, auditors stated that they found no evidence of recovery or remediation efforts as claimed. The Ghana Audit Service has therefore directed MIIF to recover the entire $40.3 million from Goldridge. Should recovery fail, the report recommends that former MIIF board chair Professor Douglas Boatin, former Deputy Finance Minister Alex Ampabin, former MIIF CEO Edward Cranton, and MIIF Chief Investment Officer Bubune Sopo be held accountable When Joy News contacted the individuals cited in the report, they declined to comment, citing the ongoing investigation by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. For Joy News, this is Kweti Nate reporting.
Well, the impact of illegal mining has opened the door to ruthless exploitation in the central region, where a gallon of borehole water now goes for as high as 5 Ghana cedis, with water scarcity deepening after the pollution of the Ayensu and Pra rivers. Water has become a commodity controlled by private sellers. Okada riders now double as water couriers, charging desperate households for every gallon they can find. Emmanuel Jiveno has more in today's episode of Dear Mahama #StopGalamsey.
Emmanuel Ejri is an Okada rider in Kwenyako. He no longer carries passengers. The towns at Kwenyako have been dry since the Yensu River died under the weight of Galamsey pollution. And a new business, water exploitation, has quietly taken its place.
My customer ni enyensu no ye na enyensu no me kura me pe bia je se ma pe baby aye far away na makwa sound nsuo nti we me customer na frɛ me say me meji gallons no na me be fill nsuo nti me ba beto wa ha ba ko 1 cedis but me so me kwa na maje me fe na me di nsuo na ama no.
Emmanuel pays 1 cedi per gallon at private boreholes, then adds transport charges for the families who depend on him.
I mean, me the commander, yeah, Okada wa ya je ba ko 5 cedis. But or your customer now pen answer me to me and me answer 10 cedis. Na just say what consider no. You sure how I move mu na yen so ya consider on kakra.
The Ayensu River, which feeds the Kwenyako treatment plant, is now thick, brown, and unsafe. And in the absence of clean water, exploitation slipped in quietly. Borehole owners who once gave water freely now sell it. Families with nothing are forced to spend the little they have just to stay alive. Across the central region, thousands are living in the same story, but some are cashing in. In Yakrum, Jonas, a tricycle rider, has become a water courier, not because he wants to, but because the crisis has become profitable. He charges more than Emmanuel because the demand is high and the desperation even higher.
Senipana de gallons there, BG 2 cedis, Ubasage 2 cedis. But I know 1, 2 dear member, be a 10, 15, 20 dear. And before one and a manyeska. And the 1, 2, they just say, wow, Besawadi. Only to a boy for no pese ye hona yetum. Goyansu Yankuaso.
For Jonas, scarcity is an opportunity. For his customers, it is misery. Families struggle just to get water, often unsafe. Some walk miles for borehole. Others give up and return to the polluted river that caused the shutdown of the Kwenyako treatment plant.
Edruna me hate sesia nsu amede ba nua kra no eni mi problem ka si abem mpenimfo a wetuma command se wonjai no still I want was wotu aye ye nimpo a yeti radio so yeti se wo bebo penim bi ni din se oka ho na wo ye na ahemfo no so akwahwe bentum kwa asase bi a enye ne dia ho ahemfo na eden edi ma won nti ye besre mo a wo tum no won bombodian na won kasa nkire won se won won na yeso e wonjai na ye akwahwe aba no eden ye hun toyen bi.
Dear Mahama, water has become a luxury in the central region, and families are paying the price because they have no other choice. The crisis created by Galamsey has become a marketplace for survival, where a few profit while entire communities drown in water poverty.
Now, the forecourt of the Kumasi City Mall is shaping up for the biggest house and fair in the Ashanti region, the Republic Bank Love FM Habitat Fair. In a few hours, the mall will transform into a one-stop center for all your housing needs. Emmanuel Bright-Kweko was at the mall where exhibitors are setting up their stands to offer exciting discounts during the 4-day event.
So it's finally here, what we've all been waiting for. It's the Republic Bank Love FM Habitat Fair. And in some few hours, this place, I'm talking about the Kumasi City Mall, will be your one-stop shop for anything that you will need for your home. The Republic Bank Love FM is the right place to be. It's starting from the Thursday, 27th November 2025 to 30th November 2025. And as you can rightly see behind me, preparations are underway. We are having the canopy set up, the various stands for the exhibitors that will be coming to the Habitat Fair will be here. And this is expected to be the biggest housing fair in the Ashanti region. We are bringing you an array of experts in the building construction sector. We're talking about interior designs, talk of your blades, your balustrades, your windows, your gates, everything that you need for your home to secure your home. This is where you need to be. Let me just not burst your bubble. I'll bring in the events executive for Love and Ishra FM, Eric Inkum.
The Republic Bank Love FM Habitat Fair has always been spectacular in terms of the organization, in terms of sponsors or exhibitors coming on board. It has always been the best. This year, the people of Kumasi and beyond should expect the very best from multimedia group, specifically Love and Ishra FM in Kumasi. We are bringing everything, like you said, everything concerning housing, from land acquisition to foundation. So you are done with the very dream house that you aspire to get. We are bringing all the experts here at the Kumasi City Mall, so you can come over and engage with them, get the best of mortgage packages, get the best of deals when it comes to land acquisition, get the best of land documentation from Lands Commission.
So as you rightly heard Eric share with us, this is your one-stop shop for all your housing needs. And so preparations are underway from here at the Kumasi City Mall in the Ashanti region. My name is Emmanuel Bright-Kweko.
Well, we'll take a short breather. When we return, Showbiz is up next. Please stay.